Hi, today I will be talking about the intermittent and continuous high intensity exercise training induced similar acute but different chronic muscle adaptations. Why would I choose this article? I chose this article to enhance my knowledge on HIIT training and the importance of chronic muscle adaptations, as long as skeletal muscles as well. What is HIIT? HIIT is a high intensity interval training performed in an all-out manner which is a time-efficient strategy to induce skeletal muscle remodeling towards a more oxidative phenotype. A fundamental question that remains unclear, however, is whether the intermittent or pulse nature of a stimulus is critical to an adaptive response. A little background information about this article. It talks about what HIIT training is, which is characterized by short bursts of relative intense exercise, by periods of recovery within a given training session, stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis in skeletal muscle and remodeling. The purpose of this article is to investigate the intermittent and continuous high intensity exercise training, elicit short-term but long-term adaptations. This article determined the specific psychological mechanisms, such as the mitochondrial biogenesis that was mentioned previously. In this article, there will be two different training sessions that were performed as well to show the short-term versus long-term adaptations. The methods used in this article, there was 17 healthy individuals who participated in two studies. 8 subjects took part in the acute investigation, which involved repeated measures designed to evaluate the skeletal muscle metabolic response to an acute bout of high intensity exercise. 9 subjects took part in the training study, which examined skeletal muscles remodeling in response to 6 weeks of training using the continuous protocol. All subjects were young, healthy individuals who were active but not specifically trained in any sport. The duration of this study was several weeks to get there was several weeks of training to get the results of both chronic and acute responses. The acute study had a pre-experimental procedure which showed the VO2 peak and peak aerobic power output, which were initially determined during a RAM protocol, to fatigue on a braked cycle ergometer, sorry, using an online gas collection system. The participants began cycling for 2 minutes at 50 watts, followed by an increase in power demand at the rate of 1 watt every 2 seconds. There was a intense group and a control group, and the intense protocol consisted of 4 30-second all-out sprints performed against a resistance to 7.5% of body mass, which was then inter intercepted with a 4 minute of recovery. The continuous protocol subjects performed the same total volume of work as the intensity exercise session, but as a single continuous all-out effort. Oh. Then for the experiment itself, subjects were instructed to refrain from exercise for 48 hours prior to each experimental trial and to avoid caffeine and alcohol for at least 12 hours before the trials. Subjects maintained individual food diaries for the 24-hour period preceding the first trial and replicated their diet during the second trial. This consisted of 2 trial days separated by at least 1 week. Trials were conducted in a randomized, counterbalanced manner, with half the subjects starting in the intense protocol and the other in the continuous protocol. The chronic study had the subjects performing baseline VO2 peak testing as described before. So they did the same pre-experimental procedures as the acute study did. Subjects undertook a series of familiarization sessions in order to become accustomed to the testing and training procedures. They had to complete a 250 kg stimulated cycling time trial, a 60-minute steady state session, at 65% VO2 peak, and a practice training session, which was modeled after the continuous protocol employed. The chronic study participants were instructed to complete as quickly as possible a stimulated time trial consisting of 250 kj of total work. The test was performed at the same electromagneticality break cycle, which was interferes with software as training at a standardized gearing. They also had to, so once they entered the exercise training, the experiment was performed 3 days per week for 6 weeks for a total of 18 sessions to align with the previous 6 week study schedule. This was modified after the continuous protocol employed in the previous study, which was the Hiit study, and each session consisted of a single high intensity cycling completed as quickly as possible. Here is the acute experience. Like I explained, the 2 days they were separated and it was conducted through a randomized counterbalanced manner. And then here's the chronic experiments, as I explained as well. Training was 3 days per week at a total of 18 sessions. Approval. They were approved by the Hamilton Integrated Research Ethics Board and conformed in all respects with the Declaration of Helsinki. They had to complete a routine medical screening and provide a written informed consent prior to them participating. Results. They had total work power between both groups did not change. So, however, peak power and power output increased for the acute study. They averaged over the 4 Wingate tests in the trial was higher than the respective values calculated in the continuous trial. So, total exercise duration in the control trial was 4 minutes and was approximately double that of the intensity trial, which was of 2 minutes. Although the later session required a total of 14 minutes, including recovery between intervals. So the intensity group was higher in results, all up due to the different exercise or due to the different intensities of the exercises. And however, the work duration was different between the both intensities, whereas the continuous protocol or the control protocol was double the amount of what the intensity group did. How can this help inform practice to others? A specific population to inform would be athletes. This article did people that were active but didn't do a specific sport. This intermittent training can be used during an off season for athletes to enhance their explosive movements and build endurance for long periods of time, such as basketball and soccer games. The different types of studies, so the acute study, that participated and they had the recovery. In soccer games, you are running and running and running and running. And so, the best way to train is to continuously have that endurance and have that built up, same thing as with basketball games. Terminology that that I had mentioned but may not know. Mitochondrial biogenesis is the process of creating new mitochondrial cells, improving energy production. Oxidative enzyme activity refers to enzymes involved in aerobic metabolism, essential for endurance and energy efficiency. And capillary density, the number of capillaries per muscle fiber, which supports oxygen delivery and nutrients exchange. And that is my article on the intermittent and continuous high intensity exercise training, which would induce and cue but different chronic muscle adaptations. Thank you.